All right, we're going to watch now the 20 worst horrifying roller coaster disasters of all time. And I'm pretty sure I know what one of these is going to be because it happened in my Six Flags here in DFW. It's awful. It's fucking brutal. Would not recommend, but I bet it's going to be in here. And I'm trying to think of other disasters. And this is roller coasters only. So most of the disasters that I know about are on like flat rides. So I don't know. I guess we're about to learn something.
Place of laughter and roller coaster rides are the most popular attractions.
Hell yeah.
But sometimes things go terribly wrong. Here are 20 horrifying.
Wood, right there. Somebody asked me. I don't like to fuck around with wood roller coasters. I know that they're safe. In fact, I've done like physics on them and stuff. But I mean, it's wood, man. I don't like it could be rotting, and I understand that they replaced the wood and everything. But catching on fire like we just saw, assuming that was real, I don't know. I don't like fucking with the
But sometimes things go terribly wrong. Here are 20 horrifying roller coaster disasters that will leave you in shock.
Okay, well, we've watched a bunch of weird shit like right before this, so I don't know if it's gonna leave me in shock, but let's go.
First is the case of Hayley Williams. On April 15, 2004, 16-year-old Hayley Williams was at Oakwood theme park with her friends for a fun-filled day.
Yep.
She must have looked forward to being on the Hydro ride, which is one of the main attractions of the park.
Especially
the
in the
Hydro
summer.
coaster goes up an elevation of 85 degrees. If you're good with geometry, you'll realize this is a very steep ascent. It is almost like going vertically up a wall. Being the highest water roller coaster in Europe, it was always thrilling to conquer this ride. After reaching the peak, the Hydro plunges down the descent at a hair-raising speed of 50 miles per hour.
I mean,
at the
you're pretty much in free fall. And since it's a water ride, you're going to have like not a lot of friction on it. So you're pretty much in free fall.
Bottom is a pool of water the Hydro splashes into. Hayley and her friends boarded the Hydro and made their way up the ascent. They held their breaths as they prepared for the descent. However, they were not prepared for what happened next. As the ride made its way down, Hayley fell 120 feet into the water below. Somehow, she managed to survive,
Holy
but
shit.
was in critical condition. Hayley was rushed to the hospital, where she unfortunately succumbed to her injuries. Investigations revealed a malfunctioning safety bar, allowing her to slip out. The park faced scrutiny for safety measures and received a £250,000 fine. Oakwood Theme Park was also closed immediately until the following year.
Could you imagine? Like, that's incredibly fucked up to know that if you died, like, her life was effectively worth £250,000, like money, monetarily. That is quite literally putting a price on human life. Like, that is doing that. That's exactly what that does.
The restraints on the rides were improved. The next incident is even more disturbing. The Battersea Fun Fair disaster.
Never heard of it.
On the 30th day of May 1972, the Battersea Fun Fair in London experienced a tragedy that marked it as one of the deadliest roller coaster disasters in history. This is what happened on that day. The Big Dipper, which is the center of attraction at the park, would be the scene of an unexpected tragedy.
This looks like really old. All classes 15. I don't know what the P is. Yeah, this
the
looks
center
pretty
of
damn
attraction
old.
at the park would be the scene of an unexpected tragedy. The ride, with its steep drops and dark tunnel sections, was a key feature of the park's skyline. However, years of repairs, redesigns, and alleged mismanagement had created a dangerous situation. As the coaster ascended with 30 passengers and a brakeman aboard, the transport rope suddenly snapped, sending the train hurtling backward down the track.
Oh, they didn't have... Okay, I see. Because they didn't have like a chain kind of pulley system, I guess.
Coaster rides are meant to scare you, especially when the ride is hustling down the descent, but this time, the fear was justified because there was no way of stopping safely. Yeah. Passengers screamed in terror as they realized they were about to crash. There was nothing the brakemen could do. They were headed for the end of the track at full speed, and all they could do was brace for impact. The crash resounded around the park with the horrific sound of metal colliding and people screaming in agony. By the time the dust settled,
I don't understand how they crashed. Because they got pulled up by a rope and let down. I guess it crashed into the other cart where they board it, or the other train where they board it.
5 people were dead, and 13 others were seriously injured. Emergency workers rushed to the scene as onlookers tried to help those trapped under the debris. Investigations revealed there were a lot of issues with the park, such as untrained teenage employees and drug use.
Sounds like Action Park.
Regulations were poor back then, so it was easy for these issues.
Nah, man, they're poor now. Come on, don't even. Go watch the Action Park documentary. It's like one of the wildest things you'll ever see. It's ridiculous.
To go unnoticed. Unfortunately, it cost 5 people their lives for the authorities to wake up to their responsibilities. Disaster strikes in the most unexpected places, as you'll see in the next story. Brandon Zucker. Brandon Zucker was a young boy who was seriously injured on the Roger Rabbit ride at Disneyland.
That is 2000. Nightmare fuel.
The accident left him with brain damage and other serious injuries.
Who is that?
In the aftermath of the accident, Disneyland made a number of improvements to the ride, including adding a double check system for the lap bars and making changes to the seating. We can argue that Disney should have put these safety measures in place before this incident. But what really happened? The accident happened on September 22nd, 2000. Brandon, who was 4 years old at the time, was riding the Roger Rabbit ride with his family. The lap bar on his car was not properly lowered, and he was ejected from the car when it made a sharp turn. He was dragged under the car for 10 feet before coming to a stop.
God damn.
Horrifying accident that left everyone at the scene in shock. Brandon suffered severe injuries, including a ripped diaphragm, liver, and spleen. He also went into cardiac arrest and suffered brain damage.
Well, yeah, if he fell from the car and got dragged by it, of course. That's fucking terrible. He got, I don't know, grounded up by it, for lack of a better word. Fuck.
He was rushed to the hospital where he underwent surgery, but there was little that could be done to bring him back to full health. Disney was sued by the aggrieved family and was forced to make the ride safer. Makes one wonder why parks wait till there's a disaster before doing the right thing.
Oh, we've done that forever, right? There's a disaster and then you fix the problem. When you know that you should fix the problem before because something like this can occur, but it hasn't, and that would cost money. That's exactly why they don't do that.
We previously talked about the worst roller coaster disaster in history. The next disaster comes close and is the worst in U.S. history. The Krug Park disaster. The Krug Park was the pride of Nebraska. It was a sizzling spot in Omaha, just around the Benson neighborhood. Back then, roller coasters were made of wood, and the gigantic roller coaster there, named the Big Dipper, was a spectacle to behold. It was simply a masterpiece made of timber. This roller coaster had 4 cars, all linked to each other, and could carry over 20 people at once. On this fateful day of July 24, 1930, the coaster made its way up the Big Dipper, but a bolt came loose in the brakes of the front car, which sent the train crashing down 35 feet. Immediately after the crash, the scene was filled with people, everyone trying to find their family or friends who were on the train at the moment of the disaster. Hopes were dashed, when the bodies of 4 people were found under the crashed cars and 17 other passengers were seriously injured.
So how did they crash? Did they fall back down again? I didn't catch that. The brake stopped working, but like, you don't brake on a roller coaster except for those, maybe some coasters have like mid-track brakes. But like, if the brake didn't work, I don't know. I don't understand.
All linked to each other and could carry over 20 people at once.
Sure.
On this fateful day of July 24, 1930, the coaster made its way up the Big Dipper, but a bolt came loose in the brakes of the front car, which sent the train crashing down 35 feet. Immediately after.
How? Like, that, I don't, they give you, that doesn't make sense.
After the crash, the scene was filled with people, everyone trying to find their family or friends who were on the train at the moment of the disaster. Hopes were dashed when the bodies of 4 people were found under the crashed cars and 17 other passengers were seriously injured. Even the cashier of the park collapsed and had to be admitted to.
Hold on.
Seriously injured. Even the cashier.
Victims of a pleasure ride that was turned into a carnival of death and injury when a front car roller coaster brake, I don't know what that is, plunged 30 feet into the ground Thursday night, where in while something hospital. It lost a brake and then it fell 30 feet. Like, that, what does that even mean for a roller coaster? Did it like disappear? Was it like some kind of fucking Tetris thing? Or like that happened and the floor below them disappeared? I don't understand this. It was more or less of an accident that we stopped at Krug Park. We were going swimming. They wanted, okay.
Cheer of the park collapsed and had to be admitted to the hospital as she became hysterical from the shock of the tragedy she witnessed. This was a disaster the park would never recover from. After the crash, the park was closed and then sold off. As much as the new management tried to keep the park running, the park could not move on from the tragedy. Soon, new management gave up and the park finally closed in 1940. Krug Park remains an icon in theme park history in the United States, but the dark shadow of the 1930 disaster looms over the story of the park. The tragedy of Kimberly Bailey.
Okay, if I'm gonna do reaction, I want to like get more information because it's gonna bother the fuck out of me that I don't know why this happened. So let's do a little digging, shall we? Google says after 6 p.m. a bolt worked loose and 4 cars of children plunged to the ground. 4 people. Okay, that tells me nothing. Why would a bolt come off, which they implied it was a brake? What? You're on a track. Like, the track just doesn't disappear. Okay. Krug Park, yeah. Nobody... This doesn't make sense. Okay. We have like documentation of it. This is the newspaper. I'm never gonna know what actually happened, am I? Here at Dipper Roller Coaster, when bolt came loose in the brake shoe, it left the track, pulling the other 3 cars with it for a 35-foot drop to the ground. Were they going around like a corner, or if the other ones had that too? I'll never know. I'll never know. I'll never know.
Jillian's Wonderland Pier in Ocean City, New Jersey, just installed the Wild Wonder coaster, but there was a faulty installation on this ride no one noticed on time. This fault led to a catastrophic failure, causing the coaster car to plummet backward, resulting in fatalities and injuries. The events leading up to the accident revealed negligence and disregard for safety regulations. Maintenance workers had replaced crucial safety components with subpar, locally made versions just days before the incident. These components were not up to standard, leading to the failure of the anti-rollback system and ultimately the fatal accident. 39-year-old Kimberly Bailey and her daughter Jessica boarded this ride unaware of the disaster that was
I think analog horror has ruined me, because whenever I see shit like this, I immediately think, oh man, this would make an amazing analog horror video. Somehow. It's just a newspaper. I don't know. Like, I guess I've been watching so much of that shit.
About to happen. As the Wild Wonder coaster made its way up, a chain broke and the car violently crashed backward. Unfortunately, the duo did not survive the crash. As the investigation into Jillian's Wonderland Pier tragedy unfolded, it became evident that the amusement park industry needed to prioritize safety measures to prevent similar incidents in the future. So far, the victims have been visitors to the parks, but there are times that the employees get unfortunate, just as in the case of Debbie Stone. In 1974, a tragic event unfolded at Disneyland, shattering the image of it being the happiest place on Earth. At Disneyland in Anaheim, California, there used to be an attraction called America Sings. Debbie Stone was well known for her kindness and positive attitude. She was a beautiful soul who did not deserve what happened to her while on.
That reads like an AI-generated prompt. Like 100%.
On duty. Debbie became the first theme park employee in the United States to be murdered in such a chilling manner at a theme park. This has made her a sort of legend in theme parks. This tragic incident sent shockwaves through the community and left an indelible mark on Disneyland's history. Born in 1956, Debbie Stone excelled academically and athletically, earning accolades and recognition. Her dream was to work at Disneyland, the magical place where dreams come true. Little did she know that her aspiration...
So I've said this before, and I'll fucking say it a million more times, I'm sure, throughout the course of my YouTube history, but I've gone to Disney World, and I went because it was part of a band trip, and I actually got to march in the Disney World parade. Tenor saxophone player, obviously, if you've been around here for a long time. Anyway, the one thing that completely fucking shattered whatever the fuck was left of my childhood was the fact that in the staging area, we were like putting on our band uniforms and shit like that, and I saw Snow White smoking a cigarette. She probably shouldn't have been doing that because you're not supposed to do that in the park. But anyway, that's what I saw, and like, all right, that is the very tiny fraction of my childhood. Just gone. So jaded. But anyway, it was pretty funny. That was like one of the most memorable things I probably have ever seen.
Would take a tragic turn on that fateful day in 1974. The incident occurred during the premiere of America Sings, a musical extravaganza at Disneyland. Debbie, stationed as a hostess, found herself caught between the rotating walls of two theaters, leading to a fatal outcome. Despite the passing of years, urban legends and ghostly tales persist, with some claiming to have encountered Debbie's spirit near the site of the tragic incident. Rosa Esparza,
there it is.
on July 19th.
This is it. This is it. This is it. This happened 10 minutes away from me. It's fucked. It's so fucked up.
In 2013, Rosa's family embarked on a journey to an amusement park seeking to create cherished memories on a hot summer day. Little did they know, destiny had a different plan in store for them. As they queued up for the towering Texas giant roller coaster, anticipation mingled with excitement. The Texas Giant, once hailed as the world's...
Okay, actually, this is not... Oh, Ryan, what the fuck are you doing? This is the new Texas Giant after it was remodeled. Yeah, just a little, like, clarifier there. It was remodeled in 2011 to be like a hybrid wood steel roller coaster. And it's called the new Texas Giant, not the Texas Giant. It is like is a very big distinguish from like each of those.
Tallest wooden coaster
doing, Orion?
Promised an unparalleled experience of speed and height. Yet, amidst the laughter and anticipation, a fatal flaw lurked. At that time, Rosa was 52. She eagerly took her place in the roller coaster's car, looking forward to a thrilling ride.
Yeah.
There was a little problem, though, but she did not think much about it. Only a single bar was attached to each seat to keep passengers from falling. Rosa trusted this bar because that was the way the ride had always been.
Yeah. Mine felt like it came loose one time. I don't want to like tell the story and say that that is what happened, but that's what I remember happening. And I was incredibly fucking terrified. Again, not to like pile on to the story or, you know, create some sort of sensationalist thing, but like I'm pretty sure that also happened to me at one point. But that was with the old Texas Giant. This is horrifying.
No one ever considered that the bar would not be enough to hold passengers from slipping off. But as the coaster hurtled down its first descent, trouble started, but it was too late. The restraint had come off, and the car was approaching a sharp bend at full speed.
What are you doing?
Rosa tried to hold on, but the forces pushing her forward were more than her frail hands could stop.
That's called inertia.
Right in front of her own daughter, family, and fellow thrill seekers, Rosa was catapulted out of her seat and down 75 feet to her death.
Yep.
Vicky Belch.
Oh, they didn't even tell you that, like, they found the top part, I believe it was the top part of her body on the awning of the, it was like a little tunnel thing. I forget exactly what it was. And she got effectively like sliced into two from that. It's awful. It's horrible. Wasn't there, but it was everywhere on the news.
Belch, a student at Buxton University, was turning 20, and it was an exciting time in her life. She was looking forward to celebrating her big birthday with her boyfriend Daniel Thorpe, who was into basketball and cheerleading, just like her. They thought it would be fun to spend a day at Alton Towers Resort, but their day turned into a nightmare when they got on a roller coaster called the Smiler. Instead of fun, they found themselves stuck and hurt because something went wrong with the ride. The accident was all over the news, making people talk about how safe theme parks are. While the company that owned the park admitted they were at fault and got in trouble, Vicky had to deal with the pain and sadness caused by her injuries. She was lucky to have...
This is definitely created by UI. Like 1,000,000%.
...escaped with her life. Unfortunately, the next story does not end so well for those involved. The Mindbender disaster. Unlike other roller coasters in this video, the Mindbender was an indoor roller coaster, and it was not just any roller coaster. This was the largest indoor coaster in the world.
That looks fun.
So you can imagine a lot of people wanted to ride this legend. The Mindbender's triple loop design and heart-pounding speeds made it a magnet for adrenaline junkies.
We actually watched last night another story, not this, about this. I believe this was like moved a few times.
Located at Galaxyland Park, Edmonton Mall in Canada, this colossal ride was an engineering marvel.
Dude,
However,
that looks so fucking
tragedy
cool.
struck on June 14, 1986, when the Mindbender suffered a catastrophic accident. On that day, as the coaster hurtled through its final loop, a car derailed, hurling passengers to the concrete below. The once joyous screams turned into horrified silence as the true extent of the tragedy unfolded. Lives were lost, and many
How
more
though? Like, it's a modern coaster. These things usually don't come derailed. Like you can see here, they have wheels on top, and then they have like wheels on bottom, so it doesn't like fly off. And then you have the wheels on the side. That is very odd that derailed.
The true extent of the tragedy unfolded. Lives were lost, and many more were forever changed by the events of that day. 3 people died, and 1 person was hospitalized after this disaster. It was discovered that this accident was caused by carelessness from the management. Maintenance was not done carefully, and lives were lost because
how
of
it
this.
Always happens,
there was
right?
no way the park was going to survive. The Mindbender ride was retired for good. The Rolling Thunder Incident. The Rolling Thunder was a racing wooden coaster located at Six Flags Great Adventure Park in Jackson Township, New Jersey. Designed by William Cobb, it opened in 1979 as the park's first wooden coaster during its 5th operating season.
So the only Six Flags that I've been to is the one here, Six Flags Over Texas, and then in Houston they used to have Six Flags Astro World, which from what I remember like blew this park here out of the water, like with its coasters and stuff. That's a really, really cool park, but I was very little when I lived in Houston or near Houston, so it could be nostalgia that is taking over and making me think that. But anyway, those are the only 2 Six Flags that I've ever been to.
This ride was an instant hit for the visitors, drawing in thrill seekers with its dual tracks and exhilarating rides. The 2 identical tracks that raced side by side on this coaster made it even more thrilling. Riders were able to feel like they raced against each other. The name of the ride must have come from the thunderous noise that is characteristic of roller coasters built out of wood. Wooden coaster. With a 96-foot drop, the Rolling Thunder was not for the faint-hearted and one which riders cannot afford any safety lapses. However, the fateful day of the tragic accident, everything changed. During a routine test run, a park employee, Scott Tyler, tragically fell to his death from the coaster. It was on June 16, 1981, and the employee was a 20-year-old man from Middletown, New Jersey. The investigation that followed revealed that Tyler may have assumed an unauthorized riding position, leading to the fatal accident. Despite assurances from park officials and inspections confirming the ride's mechanical soundness, the tragedy left a lingering sense of unease among...
So they're saying that he didn't like ride it correctly. He was like fucking around or something. I don't know if that's true or not. And I'm like pretty skeptical that it would be, because they're like Six Flags or any theme park would do whatever they could to like blame it not on themselves. So, but I don't know either way.
Visitors and employees alike. Ultimately, in 2013, the Rolling Thunder was retired, making way for new attractions like
2013 again.
The Drop of Doom, a scary name that brings back memories of how danger lurks in the corner, even at theme parks. Sometimes when a park is very popular, there's no way to escape recording some disasters. This is the case with Disneyland. Let's take a look at what is going on here. Disneyland tragedies. Disney has witnessed its fair share of tragedies. Perhaps this is because of the millions of visitors Disneyland parks get across the world every year. One such incident is that of Dolly Young in 1984, whose solo ride on the Matterhorn ended in a horrifying collision that claimed her life. In January of that year, Gina Young was riding the Matterhorn at Disneyland with her friends. As her bobsled descended the mountain, a 19-year-old named Helen Pisner noticed someone had fallen out of another car. Despite attempts to avoid the accident, Young was struck and killed by the following bobsled. The investigation concluded it was an accident, with the seatbelt likely playing a role. Despite the tragedy, the Matterhorn resumed operations the following day. Another harrowing tale is that of Mark Maples. In May of 1964, tragedy struck, altering the course of the park's history forever. 15-year-old Mark Maples from Long Beach along with 2 classmates, queued up for the thrill ride during an after-hours Elks Club event. As they descended the mountain in their bobsleds, Mark
Again, the
tragically
bobsled?
fell from the ride,
Really?
suffering severe head trauma. Despite efforts to save him, Mark passed away 4 days later. Initial speculation suggested Mark had unbuckled his seatbelt and stood up on the ride, causing the accident. Despite investigations, including slow-motion trips on the tracks to recreate the events, no conclusive evidence of foul play or hazing was found. Ultimately, Mark's death was ruled purely accidental by the police chief. But we're not done with Disney. The tragedies continue. Disney Mountain Rail disaster. In 2003, Disneyland was jolted by tragedy on the iconic Big Thunder Mountain Railroad.
That is the most overhyped coaster I've ever been on. I had to wait in line like an hour plus, maybe 2. I don't exactly remember. It was a long fucking time though. And for what it offered, no fucking way. Not worth it in any shape or form.
Amidst the laughter and thrills, a maintenance oversight led to a catastrophic malfunction. Screams shattered the cheerful facade as panic swept through the crowd. Marcelo Torres, a bright 22-year-old dreamer, lost his life, and 10 others were left wounded. As the chaos unfolded, heroes emerged from the crowd, rallying to aid the injured and summon assistance. Witnesses described the scene as a chaotic emergency nightmare. Amidst the turmoil, the sunny morning turned somber as emergency responders battled to free trapped passengers. In the aftermath, questions hung heavy in the air, demanding answers and accountability. Disneyland, synonymous with joy and wonder, closed its gates temporarily as investigations commenced to unravel the chain of events. Yet, amidst the darkness, the community united, offering solace and support to those affected. But there is one ride that has become notorious for the tragedies it has caused. I'm talking about Coney Island's Cyclone tragedies. The Cyclone is Coney Island's iconic roller coaster. It was designed by Vernon Keaton in the early 20th century, making it a really old attraction in this park. It was not just old, it was a marvel of engineering of that time. With its distinctive appearance, the ride beckons adventurers to experience its exhilarating drops and turns.
Doesn't it?
However, beneath the excitement lies a dark truth. The rides at Coney Island show their age, with the noise and the way they shake. Unlike places like Disneyland, the rules here are a bit more relaxed. But one ride, called Rough Riders, was especially dangerous back in the early 1900s. It's themed after a war and sadly killed 7 people. That's pretty scary. Coney Island used to be the most popular place for fun in the late 1800s. People came to walk around, see cool things, and ride thrilling roller coasters. Some of these coasters were famous for being super intense, like the Flip Flap Railway, which could knock you out cold. And even though these rides were risky, people still loved them because they were so exciting. In 1985,
it's like that adrenaline rush, and you actually know every accident kind of like amps that up. Because sure, roller coasters are scary, but like, some bad shit has happened on some. And so like those thrill seekers will want to do this like even more. It's kind of weird, but I guess it's like kind of like skydiving, I suppose, except less extreme.
Usually. A 29-year-old rider stood up during the ride and tragically lost his life when he struck a crossbeam.
Well, he's a stupid fucking moron.
Of several fatalities associated with.
Nah, man. If you're gonna stand up during a ride and die, that's weeding yourself out of the gene pool. Like, come the fuck on.
The Cyclone. In 1988, an employee, Peter Ellis, fell from the ride during a joyride, resulting in another fatal accident. Despite investigations, no mechanical issues were found. The most recent fatality occurred in 2007 when Keith Shirasuwa suffered a severe neck injury while riding the Cyclone. Despite emergency surgery, he passed away due to complications. His family's legal battle revealed negligence in maintaining the ride, resulting in a settlement. Despite its history of accidents and mechanical failures, the Cyclone continues to operate, albeit with upgrades and refurbishments. Next is another iconic roller coaster with a dark past. The Bell's Amusement Park Incident.
Ooh.
The Wildcat was the central attraction of the
I've
Bell's
never
Amusement
heard of
Park in Tulsa. This was a steel, looping roller coaster designed by Anton Schwarzkopf and opened in 1974. It featured a 460-foot-long single-rail track with a 44-foot lift hill and a top speed of 45 miles per hour. It was known for its exciting twists, turns, and loops, making it a popular attraction at the park. On April 20th, 1997, a tragic accident resulted in the death of a 14-year-old rider and injuries to 6 others. The incident occurred as a car on the Wildcat ride was being pulled to the top of a slope. Just before reaching the crest, the car unexpectedly slid backward, striking another car that was beginning its ascent. Eyewitnesses reported seeing this 14-year-old boy seated in the front car, ejected, and fatally hitting his head on one of the ride's metal bars. The boy who lost his life had always been scared of roller coasters. He was scared of heights and was always missing out on having fun with friends and family. He had summoned courage to come on this ride, and it would have marked the beginning of a new chapter in his life.
It reminds me of that, the Titanic implosion, I guess, where there was like a billionaire guy and he wanted to take his son for, like, I think it was Father's Day or something. And the son did not fucking want to do that. He was like claustrophobic, and obviously he's not a fucking moron and probably saw the submarine. Didn't want to do that. And, but I guess they pressured him into doing it. And, you know, we all know how that ended. It's kind of fucked up because the kid was only doing it for his dad.
Unfortunately, it was never going to be, as our young champ was cut short the very day he faced his fear. Emergency responders pronounced the boy dead at the scene, while the injured were transported to area hospitals for treatment. Among the injured were 2 14-year-old boys in serious condition, and others were treated and released. The roller coaster, which has been operational since 1974, underwent inspection by the Oklahoma Labor Department just 2 weeks before the incident, and it was deemed fit for operation. We have yet another Disneyland tragedy. What would be the story this time? Let's find out. The Matterhorn tragedy.
Back to
At
Disney.
Disneyland, Anaheim, California, there's an unusual roller coaster called the Matterhorn. This is a ride based on the concept of riding bobsleds. It is a double-tracked steel roller coaster that takes riders on a twisting, turning journey through the snow-capped peak. It's one of the most recognizable and beloved attractions in Disneyland.
Didn't they already talk about the Matterhorn? Like, it's kind of a weird structure of this video because they talked about these individual coasters and then they are now talking about like the parks and the coasters and putting like multiple stories together. Why didn't they put this Matterhorn story with the other Matterhorn story that they just told a few minutes ago?
It's exciting, scenic, and full of history. On this ride, something tragic happened in 1984. Dolly Regina Young, a 48-year-old woman from Fremont, embarked on a trip to Disneyland with friends from Arizona, unaware that this outing would mark the genesis of a grim legend. As Dolly and her companions boarded a bobsled at the base of the Matterhorn, they could not have foreseen the terror that awaited them. In a cruel twist of fate, Dolly was ejected from the bobsled. Her life tragically cut short in a moment of unsuspecting terror. Witnesses watched in disbelief as Dolly's lifeless body lay on the ground, struck by the very ride she had hoped would bring amusement.
Didn't we already hear this story? Did we not? Yeah, right here. Or maybe that was a guy. Or maybe they referenced it and then talked about the Magic Mountain. I don't know. I feel like they already talked about this.
The park descended into mourning and shock as news of the incident spread, casting a somber shadow over the once cheerful atmosphere. Despite investigations by authorities, answers remained elusive, shrouding the Matterhorn in an aura of mystery and dread. It is said that Dolly's ghost still haunts the Matterhorn. The Cobra roller coaster incident. The Cobra at Tivoli Friheden Amusement Park in Denmark was a thrilling steel inverted roller coaster.
Ooh, that looks like fun.
82 feet tall and had a track length of 1,312 feet.
Oh,
Riders
yeah.
experienced speeds of up to 43.5 miles per hour as they zoomed through 3 inversions. Unfortunately,
So, like, I don't think necessarily that the speed, while, like, a factor, it's how much, like, acceleration you're getting off the loops and the turns and the inversions and everything. That's gonna really, like, dictate what you think about the ride. Not necessarily its velocity, just purely its velocity, but like how often that velocity changes and in what direction. So if you have like a really compact coaster, like it looks like this one is, you're gonna experience a lot more tight turns and things. Probably pretty fun ride.
due to safety concerns, the Cobra is no longer operational,
Except for this
but the
person.
park is planning a replacement roller coaster for this iconic spot. On July 4, 2008, just 6 days after its official opening, the front car derailed and fell to the ground,
Goddamn.
injuring 4 people. The ride was closed for repairs and testing until late May 2009. This was when the management should have suspected something was wrong with the ride. Instead, they continued operations using the same high-risk ride. Tragically, on July 14, 2022, a 14-year-old girl lost her life while riding the Cobra. The hindmost cart broke off, leading to the ride's permanent closure. Similarly is the case of Tyree Sampson. Icon Park in Orlando, Florida, is known for its thrilling rides, but became the seat of a tragedy. Tyree Sampson, a 14-year-old, had on this fateful day eagerly approached the towering free-fall drop.
I did not think that they would talk about this. This isn't a roller coaster. This happened incredibly recently. It's super fucked up. Because if you've seen the original footage, well, what happens is the guy goes up there, and he's a rather larger fellow. He goes up there, and when they come down, like I guess his restraint wasn't like, well, restraining him or something. And he falls like a pretty fucking far fall for sure. Obviously died on impact or shortly thereafter. But that's the most fucked up thing about the situation. But the next most fucked up thing is everyone saw that, and the ride operators, like there's video of this. The ride operators were like, "Oh, did you do that? Like, it was safe whenever I checked him. It's fine." Like they couldn't have cared fuck all about the dude that was on the ground splattered. They were just wanting to make sure like their asses were covered from it. I think it's a pretty fucked up thing.
Drop tower brimming with anticipation for the hard-pounding descent. Despite safety concerns, Tyree's enthusiasm remained strong. However, as the ride began, disaster struck. Tyree was ejected from his seat, plunging to the ground below. Investigations revealed negligence and disregard for safety measures.
And it's also like when it was coming down, right? Because normally whenever a ride like that, it'll go all the way to the top and let you let you look at the surroundings, the view and everything, and then they'll drop you, but they won't drop you like all the way down, right? They'll drop you and then it'll kind of stop like that, and then it'll go back up and down and up and down, right, for a few times. But the thing about this is on the way down, like whenever it stopped kind of in the middle-ish of the track, maybe lower than that, I'm not exactly sure, but anyway, it did stop, not at the bottom, but the guy like slipped out of it right when it stopped. And because again, he has inertia, and inertia means you want to resist a change in motion. And he had a lot of inertia. And he did not resist a change in motion. Or the force trying to change the motion was not enough. And yeah, it's really fucked up.
With the ride exceeding weight limits and lacking essential features. Next is the case of Rachel
Oh, they don't
Hawes.
even really talk about
What
it. Well,
happened
there you
to
go.
Rachel
This
on
is the
that fateful
backstory.
day at the park? Rachel Hawes set out from Swartz Creek, Michigan, bound for Cedar Point Park in Sandusky, Ohio, eager for the thrills of its renowned roller coasters. Cedar Point, dubbed America's roller coaster, boasts 15 coasters and a beautiful location on a peninsula jutting into Lake Erie. While they were having fun, tragedy struck. While waiting for the top
I want to ride that.
Rachel was struck by a dislodged bracket,
Oh,
causing
fuck.
a severe brain injury.
Oh,
The
shit.
investigation
I think I've
uncovered
heard about
50
this.
detached bolts, revealing a malfunction in the coaster's maintenance.
Yep.
Makes me wonder how 50 bolts could be missing on a ride like this, and no one noticed.
Oh, it's like incredibly huge, right? And nobody wants to go up there and fix that. It's scary. That's exactly why.
It just shows how careless the park management and maintenance team are. Even more disturbing is what happened on the ride called Son of Beast. In 2006, Kings Island's Son of Beast roller coaster made
That's
headlines
like one of the
for
most
a
famous
disastrous
ones.
accident, but its troubles began long before.
They call
In
it the
2000,
SOB.
Kings Island aimed for a standout coaster, birthing Son of Beast, promising to be the tallest and fastest. However, choosing Roller Coaster Corporation of America for its construction led to troubles. Despite efforts to fix issues, including a partial collapse during construction,
That's why I don't fuck around with wooden roller coasters. That image right there.
problems persisted. In 2006,
Nah.
disaster struck as support structures failed, causing injuries and panic. Investigations revealed structural flaws and stresses. Despite attempts to rebuild, including removing its loop, Son of Beast closed for good in 2012. Even in the safest amusement parks, things do go wrong, as in the next story. Darien Lake Tragedy. On July 18, 2011, at Darien Lake Amusement Park Resort near New York, excitement filled the air. The park,
That looks
known
fun.
for its thrilling rides, promised a day of joy. Roller coasters soared, water slides gleamed, and festivities echoed,
Oh, wow.
creating an atmosphere of
That's a
pure
cool-looking water
exhilaration.
slide.
However, tragedy struck that seemingly ordinary day. Standing tall in the park was the Ride of Steel, a massive roller coaster boasting a 208-foot height and a breathtaking 205-foot drop, reaching speeds of 73 miles per hour. Its thrilling twists and drops promised an unforgettable experience, yet beneath the excitement lay a dark tale. James Hackemer, a 29-year-old war veteran seeking a day of joy with his family,
Oof.
fell from the Ride of Steel, tragically
Damn.
ending his life. James Hackemer was a double amputee who lost both legs in Iraq. He
God damn. Life was just against this dude. Holy shit.
had somehow survived the war and his ordeal, only to lose his life in a place that was supposed to bring him joy. This incident cast a shadow over the park, raising concerns about ride safety. Darien Lake Resort, previously a Six Flags theme park, had seen similar tragedies before.
Oh, did they sell that
prompting
off?
questions about the true
Did not
safety
know
of such
that.
attractions. The Ride of Steel, once celebrated for its thrills, now bore a somber history,
Yeah.
reminding visitors of the fine line between excitement and sorrow.
That's a
These
wild
incidents are a
inversion.
reminder that danger lurks even in places where we feel safest. There is a need to be vigilant always. For more tales of unexpected
cool.
twists and
I like
outcomes,
that.
subscribe to the channel.
All right. If you watched, I appreciate it. And I stream every night to very few people, but I am here every night. And yeah, great. Like, comment, subscribe, all that shit. And I'll talk to y'all later. Take it easy.